Whenever you're going to live in the present, that is what the angels death teaches us to do. The new dream, heaven on earth. I want you to forget everything you have learned in your whole life. This is the beginning of a new understanding.
Okay, so from the Tao Te Ching, number 2, I want you to share what you think this means. When people see some things as beautiful, other things become ugly. When people see some things as good, other things become bad. Being and non-being create each other. Difficult and easy support each other. Long and short define each other. High and low depend on each other. Before and after follow each other. Therefore the master acts without doing anything and teaches without saying anything. Things arise and she lets them come. Things disappear and she lets them go. She has but does not possess. Acts but does not expect. When her work is done, she forgets it. That is why it lasts forever.
I think it's like integrating this like notion of like polar opposites, like the yin and the yang, and then how like there's highs and lows in your life, and there's like things that never last forever. So in a way, I think they're using master as like a metaphor, as like for like life obstacles that you face in your life, and how like the experiences that you go through can be pretty much your greatest teacher. So that's what I get from it.
Okay. When people see some things as beautiful, other things become ugly. To me, it's just basically talking about positive and negative, the yin yang, the two polar opposites, and just this idea of label. Our minds tend to label a lot of things, and when we say something is beautiful, then we're automatically in the trap of the opposite, which then we have to acknowledge that something's also ugly. So I think it's kind of indicating like sometimes it's not good to label things, because you got to ask yourself like what is truly beautiful. Like some people, they don't like the rain, but some people do. Some people don't like the snow, and then some people do. Some people don't like the color black, but then some people do. So when you label something as beautiful, I think sometimes we just have to be careful with judgment. So I think that indication is trying to get us to not label as much. When people see some things as good, other things become bad, and it's pretty much the same concept. It's just like not really choosing one over the other, but just like realizing that in a way there's like beauty in both. Like there really may not be such a thing as good or bad, but it just is what it is. Like it's not good, it's not bad, it's just what it is. And some people, once again, I think that whole paragraph is talking about really like not having a judging mind, to kind of just put the mind aside and just look at the experience and just don't say it's good, don't say it's bad, don't say it's beautiful, don't say it's ugly. It's just that experience. Being and non-being create each other. Difficult and easy support each other. It's going back, talking about the same type of thing. Usually when you start something new, it usually will be difficult, but then as you get better at it, then it gets easier. So it's like that it could be the same activity, but then you experience both spectrums. You start off and it's hard, then all of a sudden you do it a lot, then it becomes easy. So really, they go hand in hand. Like it's almost like you can't really improve without going through difficulties, without going through struggles. So you want to get better in anything, no matter be it like athletics, or it could be school, or just anything, you have to go through struggle. So I think when people kind of want to just live an easy life and they don't want to do anything hard and everything's comfortable, it kind of sets them back from growing and evolving because they're kind of afraid to challenge themselves. So once again, if you look at difficult and easy, rather than judge it and say that one is better than the other, you could kind of embrace it. Like when you're going through difficult times in life, you don't have to look at it as a bad thing. You could be like, you know what, this is challenging me to grow at this moment. Long and short define each other. Once again, like we live in a culture where they always like value height, people tall and all those things. But really, I think the truth is like long or short, tall or small, it shouldn't be like this is better than the other. It should just be all embraced and appreciated. You know, I mean, in recent times, like somebody like Simone Biles, for example, one of the reasons why she's so amazing in gymnastics is because she's not so tall. So in that situation, that's a very good example of like someone who's shorter, but then it's actually like used to an advantage. But it shouldn't have to necessarily come to that where you have to prove it through athletics, but just this understanding that hey, um, both are not necessarily good or bad. It just is what it is. High and low depend on each other. Before and after follow each other. So just going through all those again, just basically just talking about the different opposites, and rather than like saying that yang is better than yin, like just let them both come together and embrace both and have both, accept both rather than choosing one over the other. Therefore, the master acts without doing anything and teaches without saying anything. To me, what it's saying when it says act without doing anything, it's like it's not like it's a natural doing. It's not like forced. It's not like the ego where he has to try a lot. It just comes more naturally. He just does what's natural, and because he does what's natural, it's not it doesn't take any extra effort. So it's almost like he's not doing anything. So because he's being natural, and he teaches without saying anything, that goes back to a lot of the Eastern teachings is teaching people through example rather than telling people to do this and not do that. A lot of the teachings in the East is kind of pointing people towards like just basically living a good life and leading by example without words and just staying on the path. Things arise and she lets them come. Things disappear and she lets them go. So once again, it's almost going over that point of sometimes things will go your way and you let it go. You let it happen. You don't try to hold on to it, but you just allow it to happen. And then as in anything in life, just like a wave, there's it comes and then it goes. There's gonna come a time where you're gonna have to let go. So then when it's time to let go, like you're not in stress and you're not resisting it. You just let it go when that time comes. So it's just basically teaching you to like be able to embrace the good moments. And then when those other moments come that may not be so good, you understand like that's a part of life. There is the positive, there's a negative, and you just flow with it regardless of what happens. She has but doesn't possess. So imagine that, like having something, but then you don't possess it. So, there's another teaching that they talk about this, where it's like having a child, but not possessing a child, or having a student, but not possessing a student. I think it's a lot of times people are used to owning everything, but this teaching is kind of teaching you to just to not really seek ownership of things, but to just kind of um, be more kind of having less control, like not feeling that you have to control everything, but just kind of giving up control and just kind of letting nature take over. Acts but doesn't expect. So imagine, doing something and then not really expecting anything in return. So you do good things, but you don't necessarily expect anything in return. Um, I think a lot of times people in this world are just doing things for attention. But imagine you're just doing it because it's not for attention, but you're just doing it because it's who you are. So a lot of these teachings are trying to go teaching you to be yourself, do what's natural, and not really be so fixated or focused on what other people think or whether or not they approve. It's more about just being who you are and doing what you feel is right. When her work is done, she forgets it. That is why it lasts forever. When her work is done, she forgets it. I feel that that's kind of talking about just kind of being humble and then like not holding on to like past accomplishments and just kind of using that as like, hey, a validation for your self-worth. I think it's kind of like an ego thing where you're just kind of like building up your ego and say like, hey, I did this and I accomplished that, and you try to put yourself in a pedestal above other people because of your past accomplishments. I think that this is kind of talking about where you might accomplish something, but you're not really like holding on to it to use it to like prove yourself to other people or to like put yourself above other people. I think that's kind of a very humble thing to do that a lot of people have a hard time doing. And then it says that is why it lasts forever. And I think it's similar to these teachings. Like the person that wrote these teachings, they don't really know much information about him. They're not even sure if he even actually existed. There's really not really many pictures of him, or you don't really know that much about him. He's just kind of a mysterious figure. But yet at the same time, thousands of years later, there's so many people that still study on these teachings that was written by him. So it's just like essentially it's kind of going back to not taking ownership, like even with Bruce Lee, I learned a lot from him, but it's not just him, it's leading me to the Tao, leading me to teachings of Buddha and Eastern philosophy in general. These teachings, they just carry on. And there's various people that are kind of in a way just passing on the torch onto the next generation to kind of allow the teachings to flourish and live on. Do you have any questions about this one?